Welcome back. In this section, we'll go over all of Cursor's powerful features that we'll use to help us in our Shopify development. So the first thing we'll do is create two new files in our root directory. The first one is going to be .cursorrules, and the second one is .shopify-ignore. So you can easily create a new file by right-clicking in the main folder and clicking New File. And the first one is the .cursorrules, and we'll have this snippet available to you so you can easily copy and paste it. But in our previous setup video, we are talking about there are AI rules for an entire cursor, and then there can be project-based rules. So this is a project-based rule where we're telling the AI that you're a Shopify development expert. Here's the code style and structures that you'll use, the naming conventions and Shopify specific guidelines, and more. And the second file we'll need is the Shopify-ignore. So with Shopify, we pull down all of these themes from our store, but when you decide to push those changes, these two files here will cause the push to not complete because Shopify is saying, hey, I sent you all of these files, but you're sending me back two files that did not exist. So the first one is just telling us how to work within the theme, and then the Shopify ignore file is telling Cursor, hey, ignore this other file, and then this file will also be ignored as well. So when we push changes, it'll only push the folders that we initially pulled down. So let's go ahead and talk about one of the big Cursor features, which is Cursor Chat. So you can press Command L, and this will show the chat window. And as a reminder, you can easily toggle chat with this icon in the top right here. But as you get more familiar, the keyboard shortcuts will become second nature. So let's zoom in a little bit here for the chat window, and you can see a couple things. The first is this plus button, and this is where we can search for any file. So if you start typing a name, you can see, for example, footer.liquid. When we click on that, this is basically telling the chat, hey, reference this particular file when I'm asking it something. So we'll close this out for now. Below here, we have the model that we can select. So which AI model you want to use. And typically we'll be using the 3.5 Sonnet. This is the latest version here. 2024 1022. You can use the O1 preview, which is also pretty good at coding, but you might have to just wait a little bit longer. Next up, you can also do the mention. So mention is similar to the context here of adding a particular file, but with the mention, you can see several options here of mentioning particular files. You can mention entire folders, code bases, web, and more. Let's just back out of this. And then you'll have two options here. So you can do chat and then chat with codebase. The chat will just reference whatever file you're working with. So let's actually just go, add back that file, the footer.liquid. So if I did ask it that I want to add, say, a social media icon to my footer or something in the footer, and I hit just a chat here, it'll just talk to this particular file. But say you don't know where something should go, and you're adding something completely new, this is where you would chat with the entire code base. So let's try an example of that right now. And let's say in this example, you want to add a Google tag script to your Shopify theme. Let's just go grab an example snippet here. We have this Google tag, and then we'll come back to Cursor and tell it, I have a Google tag I want to add to my theme. Please add it in the correct spot. Hit Shift Enter, then we can chat with the code base. So you can click chat with the code base or Command Enter, and you'll see it's reading all of the files in your theme, and then it'll find the correct place that it should go. So you see it's saying that, we should go in the theme file, look for the head snippet, then add that right before that section. And you'll see in all of the responses, when you hover over, you have the option of asking follow-up questions. So say you don't quite understand something or you want more context, you can ask it directly. If you prefer, you can copy that snippet. Like for example, here, I can copy this and paste it exactly where it's telling me. Or the fastest way is just telling it to just click apply. So when you hit apply, you'll see the code highlighted in green. So when you see highlighted in green, this is an addition to your code. When you see red, it's removing something. And of course, when there's no color, there's no changes at all. And sometimes you may have multiple changes. Sometimes, in this example, we have one, and up here, you can see, you can accept all of the changes, or you can go down to the individual code and then hit Command Y or Command N to accept. So usually you'll just hit accept here, and that has added the tag. And even, it's even being more helpful. It's telling you, remember to replace the tag ID with your actual analytics tracking ID. So not only is it telling you where it should go, but it recognizes that you also need to update that snippet. And another thing with the chat is, say for example, you just chat with the code base and it opened a new file you didn't know about. After it makes its changes, or even before, you can say, what does this file do? And you can see it's referencing the theme file, and it'll go through and tell you all the structure, the assets, everything you need to know about that file to give you better context in understanding what's being done. And this can be done for any file. So for example, I can tag another file, like maybe the header.liquid file, and say, explain this file to me. And this will go through that file, find it in the folder, and then tell me everything I need to know about what that file is, how it works, and so on. And one thing that's great about the chat is giving it more context. And that'll be something that you'll kind of pick up on the more you go, is the better the context that you give AI, the better the output. So one of the things we can do as well is if we hit type in we can go down to the docs option here, and then we can add a new doc. And this is where we can paste in the developer docs page. So in this example, let's go grab the Shopify Liquid docs, and we'll just copy this URL, come back to cursor, paste it in. And you'll see once it loads that doc, it'll first prompt you for a name. So we can probably just add Shopify Liquid. And the prefix will be the folder. Think of it like, if I go into the tags folder here, it's saying like we want this to be the prefix. So everything within that liquids folder. So we'll just go ahead and make sure that this has /liquid. And then the entry point will be the main liquid page. So hit confirm. And this will go ahead and add that docs file here. You see it's indexing all of the pages on the Shopify Liquid docs. And this will be helpful because you can then chat with AI with that context and say, you want to make a change to this particular page, you want to do some sort of edit, and you can reference that doc so it has the best context that will give you the best answer when it comes to working with your Shopify theme. And so you can see here, this is just kind of like a little bit into the chat and how powerful it is. We successfully added this Google tag, and we didn't write any single code. The chat went to go find the file itself, knew exactly where to place it. It even recommended like, hey, remember to update your tag ID. Then we went over tagging specific files, asking it to explain that file, and even adding additional documentation that will help improve your answer. So that covers the basics of Cursor Chat. And in the next video, we'll go over the Command K feature in Cursor.